In this video, we're going to look at Palantir Stock and we're going to look at what happened last week. Loads of news came out, some bad, then some good, and I'm going to look at whether I think it's a buy at the moment. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new to the channel, head down there and subscribe so you don't miss any future content coming out, whether it's penny stock, value plays, dividend investing. We cover it all in this channel. And while you're down there, give it a little like as well, or of course wait until you've watched the video and liked the content and then like the video. Comment while you're down there as well your thoughts on Palantir Stock, whether you're buying it, whether you're selling it, whether you've got another play that you think might be more interesting or certainly a better play in order to beat the market. I would always love to hear from you. So we're going to take a look at what happened last week. It was an interesting week for Palantir last week. The stock went down. We're going to look at reasons why the stock went down. The stock then surged back up again later on in the week, and we're going to look at reasons why it surged back up. And I'm going to give you my view on whether it is a buy or a sell or a hold, or just leave it. And I'm going to take a little look at some analysts on Yahoo Finance and TETrading, because they're not looking at Palantir all that favorably at the moment. That may well change, but before we get into all of that, this channel is purely for entertainment purposes only. I'm not suggesting you go and buy Palantir or sell it. This stock would be I would consider a high risk. This would be something that I'd be putting in to my high risk portfolio. Speculative play maybe, probably less speculative, but just high risk, hopefully high growth as well. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the stock over the next week or so, since we had obviously the news later on last week. We've had a weekend since, so this video is coming out tomorrow at exactly the time that the market is opening, pretty much. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the stock as of first thing tomorrow. So we'll head into the computer, have a look at some articles as always, and then I'll give you my thoughts right at the end as to whether I am buying or selling. Right, we're going to start on the website, as I often do with these companies, just to take a little look at what they're about. At Palantir, we build software that lets organizations integrate their data, their decisions, and their operations into one platform. Our software empowers entire organizations to answer complex questions quickly by bringing the right data to the people who need it. I haven't got a clue really what that means in layman's terms, but essentially they are a data-driven software company that basically specializes in analytics. So I've had a scroll through the website. We've got some lovely little sections, i.e. the investor relations. So we've got the feature presentation here that you can take a look at on earnings and bits and pieces like that. So I would encourage you to take a look at the website. If you then head to here, we've got their products. So we've got the different products that they offer to different sectors, organizations and things like that. We've got the Gotham, we've got the Foundry, and we've got the Apollo. I'll let you have a little look at those. Apollo is a SaaS company, which is software as a service. That is massive at the moment in the tech sector. So have a little scroll through the website. I'm going to go through it all now with you. We're going to have a look at the articles and what happened to the stock. So if I head on to here, we'll have a look at what happened to the stock last week. We were up at 34, just under $34. It's only been at $39 at all-time highs. So it was up at $33 and we had a pretty red week all in all. Now I'm going to go through the reasons why we had a pretty red week all in all, because there's a couple of reasons and a couple of things that kind of happened last week. So let's have a look at the first reason, or one of the reasons certainly. Palantir stock drops towards record 6-day losing streak. So we had a pretty serious losing streak as lockup expires. So they had their IPO not all that long ago. We had some shares locked up and they hit their expiration date. So we hit the longest losing streak since going public, as the expiration of the lockup period puts all of the outstanding shares available to trade. Now this has just saturated the market. Basically that's always going to cause stock price to drop, and that was one of the reasons. But luckily, as I said, towards the end of the week we've had some more positivity in the stock price. So we'll have a look at that in a second. The stock has tumbled 34% during its losing streak and has now dropped 35.5 roughly percent since closing at a record $39 on January 27th. So $39 was the all-time high, Jan 27th. We're just under $30 at the moment. We're at about $29. So as soon as all the outstanding shares flooded the market, the share price, as with you look at the age-old business model, supply and demand, it's going to happen, right? So stock has dropped because of that, 7%. So if we have a look at reason number 2 that the share price dropped is actually dropped off the surprise loss, although revenue beat expectations. So there was a surprise fourth quarter loss, although revenue rose more than forecast. So that's why this didn't have as big an impact as it might have done. We've got here pre-market, it dropped 6.3%. If we have a look here, pre-market 6.3%, trading Tuesday after the data integration and software company reported surprise fourth quarter loss. Now revenue beat expectations. So we've got here the FactSet consensus was for a profit of 2 cents a share. Revenue rose 40.4% to 322.1 million, beating the FactSet consensus of 30 million. So there wasn't a huge reaction to this, smaller reaction than probably normal when you get a loss like this, because revenue beat forecast. If revenue hadn't beaten forecast as well, it could have been far more dramatic. But you're always going to have a reaction of some sort in the market when you get news like this. Now I don't think that is too bad. I don't think it's about a right reaction. It's not an overreaction, it's not an underreaction. I think the market reacted in probably the right way, but it hasn't affected, certainly I don't think it's affected most investors' outlook on the company moving forward. So we've had revenue grow quite considerably. So we've also got, if you just take a quick look here, Palantir expects first quarter revenue growth of 45% and 2021 revenue to rise greater than 30%. So this is all really good news. Revenue is on its way up, and I think that's going to be one of the reasons why stock is still looking pretty strong and investors are still piling in. There's the bad news. Let's have a look at the good news. So we've got one bit of good news here. So here we are. On Wednesday, Goldman Sachs analyst Christopher Merwin lifted his rating on Palantir stock from neutral to buy and boosted his price forecast from $13 to $34. That is absurd. That is an absurd price hike for a price target. From 13 to 34 is absolutely outrageous. So the stock had been trading in January at $39 and his price target was 13 on that basis. It's now tumbled down to $29 on a bad week, and he's upped his price target to $34. Now, the article goes on to say that Merwin was very pleased with fourth quarter results in terms of revenue and the growth in revenue. Merwin was also pleased by management's projection of greater than 30% revenue forecast in fiscal 2021. So he's of the same opinion that the revenue growth is a very, very good thing, and that's why he's being more bullish on it. It does make me wonder why his price target was 13 to begin with. We've had a good year with Palantir, so why his price target was so low in the first place, don't know. His hike in price target is astronomical, but is what it is. So when you see a report like this come out on the Motley Fool, news stories like this will have quite an impact on retail traders, much like myself. You know, we don't have terminals to Bloomberg and things like that, so we do very much rely on work on news stories like this and think, okay, well look, there's lots of positivity in the news. We're not going to make crazy gains on it like maybe if you had a terminal where you can get in early, but we're going to ride that wave and almost like, I guess, swing trades, you just follow the trend up, and that's kind of how we work, as well as analysing a company and realising that it's a good company to be buying into and we want a part of it and we can see growth in it in the future. But things like this are really positive for the company. When you see analyst reports like this, I'll take a quick second just to look at tip ranks like I said I would. Here we are. So Palantir on tip ranks has got 7 analysts offering a 12-month price forecast, and actually 4 of them are to sell, 1's a hold and 2 buy, and actually their average price target is $25, which is a 10-11% downside. So we've got highs of 40 and we were at 39 in Jan. I can see a much better future for this company, especially when you've got the likes of Goldman Sachs analysts putting a higher price target on it. We've got, I believe, rumours of new contracts coming out with big companies like Facebook and AT&T. There's a lot in the future for this company, I think. Last thing to look at is a very important thing to look at. Cathie Wood's ARK Invest ETFs acquired over 6.8 million shares of Palantir in the last week as the stock dipped. So we've got one of the greatest investors at the moment, certainly, that we've seen in the form of Cathie Wood, and Cathie Wood's ARK Invest ETFs are snapping up Palantir in the dip. They still believe in it very strongly, as do I. And they've actually added Palantir to a second ETF. They have ARK ETFs, ticker symbols ARKK and ARKW. They've just added Palantir into the ARKW ETF, I believe. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but they've added it to a second ETF, so that is good news for the company. And just to get recognition from the likes of Goldman Sachs analysts with higher price targets and ARK Invest at the moment. ARK Invest are the investors on the tip of everyone's tongue. They are being talked about all over because they're just really disrupting the ETF sector. ETFs generally aren't supposed to go up by the levels that ARK Invest ETFs have been going up by. Some of them have gone up 200% last year. The ETFs of old are Vanguard's S&P 500 ETFs or energy ETFs or emerging markets or whatever it might be. That these are disruptive ETFs, innovation ETFs, genomics ETFs, EV space ETFs, and they're really doing great things. So to add Palantir into two of her ETFs, fair ETFs, ARK Invest, is really, really good news. So I said at the beginning, I'll let you know whether I am buying. Yes, I am. I have actually already. I bought at an okay price, certainly not in the dip. I just didn't have the funds available in the dip. So I was looking at it at around the 26, 27, and I just couldn't get the funds available. So I've ended up buying at $29. I'm not disappointed with that. I think we've got a long way to go, and this is going to be a longer term hold, but at least a couple of months, I would have thought, to 6 months, and we'll see how it's performing. But I have bought in. It's in my high risk, high growth speculative portfolio, so it's not as much of a speculative play than the penny stocks that I've been buying into that are very, very volatile. But this one is certainly a high growth, but probably holds a little bit more risk with it as well. So that's where I am. I am bullish. I have bought. Doesn't mean that you should, but have a look at all this information, decide for yourself if you like Palantir. Cathie Wood certainly does. Goldman Sachs analysts obviously do, and for that reason, and their revenue growth is a strong catalyst for me to show that certainly in the future they're going to do some great things. We'll also see if these contracts do come out in the wash, and if they do, that'll mean big things for the company as well. So that's it for today, guys. As I said in there, I have bought in, and I bought in on the analyst reports and the increased revenue, quite substantial increased revenue, the rumors of the new contracts that they will probably be winning. I didn't go into that in there, but there's rumors of them winning contracts with the likes of Facebook and AT&T, and I bought them because ARK Invest are also very bullish on them, and I'm a big believer in the idea that professionals do what they do best, and ARK Invest, Cathie Wood, is one of the best investors of our time at the moment, like the new Warren Buffett. So if ARK Invest are buying, you need to be listening, you need to be thinking about it more carefully. Should I be investing? If you also like what she obviously likes in terms of increased revenue, new contracts coming out, they won a lot of new contracts last year as well, then we should see some serious growth in the company. It's also becoming a bit of a hype stock as well. That shouldn't be a reason for purchasing Palantir, but it is something to consider, I guess, at the same time. So I'm in a okay-ish position, less than 10% of the portfolio. As I'm building this high risk portfolio, I'm having to throw quite a bit of the portfolio into each position, up to maybe 10% of the account into each position to realize some high growth, to grow it as quickly as possible. But that is literally high risk speculative portfolio I'm in. We'll see what happens to it over the next week or 2 weeks. I'll be holding it probably long term, certainly longer than that, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with it over the next couple of weeks. So we'll touch base on the high risk portfolio in a couple of weeks or so probably, and I'll show you what's happened to it since then. But until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. See you later.